All right, I don't really have a strong agenda for today. Just got back from vacation this weekend, so I was in Costa Rica for a week. Um, but yeah, so let's just go over where we are at the state of HDF5 and releases. Actually, let me crack this open here too. Uh, Pop open HDF4. All right, so we just released the HDF4. So that's out 4.2.16. Um, so far I've heard back from some people and we didn't break anything, so that's good. Given all the changes that we made, people are actually happy that it works on their new systems, ARM, M1, things like that. So the next planned release for HDF4 is next year, about this time. So not sure if it'll be 4.2.17 or if it'll be something else. The one thing that I do want to make sure that we do in that is, well, there's a couple of things. One is we've never really used semantic versioning with HDF4, so maybe we should start doing that if I talk about that. And also clean up the right now we deploy a lot of internal stuff that maybe should not be deployed. So that'll probably be something we discuss as we get towards the end of the year, because I'm not going to worry about it right now. For HDF5, we have so 1.8 is out, 1.10 is coming. We have it on the schedule here for the end of February, and it's slipped because now it's the middle of March, and that's just because HDF4 took longer than we thought to get out the door. There's some last minute issues. And so 1.10, we're hoping to get out towards the end of this month. So everything on this schedule is going to slide down a month, and I'll update GitHub soon. 1.10 doesn't really introduce any new features. We're just bringing over a bunch of CVE fixes and performance improvements from develop that bring it very close to 1.8 in performance when we test it. So that should be coming out pretty soon. We're finishing that up this week. I think the code freeze is Friday, which effectively might be Monday morning. But then we should be ready to release in fairly short order. Then the next month, we'll probably do the last release of 1.12. So 1.12, as a reminder, has an incompatible vol interface with 1.14. So we don't want to have the two vol interfaces around, and with 1.14 and its improved vol interface out, there's really no point in keeping 1.12 around anymore. Everyone who's using 1.12 should migrate to 1.14. So we'll do a final release of 1.12.3, and we'll move over CVE fixes and stuff like that for people who feel they have to stay with 1.12 for whatever reason. And then that'll be the last of that. And then the next release of 1.14.1 I have penciled in for the end of the next release of 1.14 I have penciled in for the end of April. We're working on the selection IO data type conversion feature for the ECP project. We're finishing that up, and we hope to get that out. So along with a few other minor fixes for 1.14.0. So that's one. That's HDF5 for the next couple of months. And as far as like HDF5 2.0 goes, and that's something that's going to be very far down the road. We really haven't done any major refactoring in the library yet, and we'll probably start thinking about that as we get into the summer. So the next thing that's going to be coming out, and so this one isn't as nice, right? You can see we don't have a nice README on here, is going to be HDFView. So over the next month, I'll go through this repository at a README, make it nice like the other repositories that we have, and we will be releasing. I don't have a target date yet. We just got one HDF4 out the door, and so this HDF View version will use HDF4 4.2.16, and we'll use HDF5 1.14.0, and that will be the only released version of HDF View. In the past, we had this release scheme that was complicated, where there were multiple lines that used HDF5 1.10 and HDF5 1.12, and we're not going to be doing that anymore. We'll have to think about how we want to do the versioning scheme going forward, because right now I feel it's very complicated. So yeah, so that's what I have for releases. I don't really have a lot of stuff today. I was just going to ask questions, see if anybody had anything they wanted to ask or talk about, but I didn't have anything really specifically planned for this today. there any questions from the field? Anybody want to know anything?
So where selection IO feature will be used?
I believe down in the MPIO VFD type layer, like deep down in there. I'm not as familiar with exactly the details of this feature.
Because I know it was intended to use to do better subfiling. And then, sorry, I will retake you. And what about VFD Swimmer?
VFD Swimmer, it's out there, right? Like we have that branch. I do want to take the time to investigate the idea that Quincy had suggested that we use a vol layer to do the timing stuff to kind of get some of that out of the library because of how it adds a lot of complexity to the library. And I would like to get that feature in. I think that's a useful feature, but I felt that branch just carried a lot of technical debt into the library that would be difficult to maintain. I mean, it had such a troubled past.
You know, and we're ready to talk with you because there may be some, I don't know, I don't see how that modification of func entry, func leave micro really creates more complexity than it had before. And what would it mean for to move it to wall layer, because you would still have this complexity in wall layer and adding it to the library, while the VFD Swimmer is you know, it is VFD. So maybe we should talk.
Yeah, we can talk. I mean, it's difficult for us to find resources right now. We have a lot of other things going on.
Right, and maybe we can help. That's why let's talk. It's you know, the thing is, I feel really sorry for people who paid for it and waiting for it, and really it should be working on even on NFS, and we could move forward with it, while you know new ideas just stopped merging for not clear reason. If there is clear reason, let's address it. You know, absolutely. But let's, yeah, I appeal to you. Let's, when we talk next time, we can discuss in more detail and set up maybe some meeting to look at what's really where concerns are.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like as we were going into 114 that 114 had, or the VFD Swimmer project had kind of a troubled history, right? With like basically it was in like development hell where we like developers got moved in and out of the project, and it felt like at the end it was still rushed, that it really didn't have the same code quality as the rest of the library. Even though I mean we had a lot of stuff to the test and things like that.
It was your choice to release. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, we had to release 114 for the ECP projects.
Well, you know, the reason I'm asking, because I agree with you that there are a lot of things to think about and revamp the library. And as with any feature, you really do not know what you're stepping into, right? It's hard to put inside HDF5 new features. And with VFD layer, with wall layer, architecture becomes much cleaner. It would be much easier to do. But I would advocate for releasing features that are already available and then step back and see how all those features will play together, right?
But it wasn't just like, you know, the func enter macros. I mean, that part is actually like not super bad, but it's like stuff like the page buffering. There's like, I mean, half of that, like there's all this complexity in there to deal with like the potential of like torn pages and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of extra complexity in the library that it adds in certain areas.
Well, but current page buffer doesn't work, you know. It has its deficiencies. And once again, this is where we can help.
Yeah, that's one of those things I wanted to move over, is that, you know, the page buffering changes that John made, that's something that could be moved over probably independently.
Right.
Like nobody sees that, right? That's just a library thing, and we could ignore the parts that deal with VFD Swimmer and just move over his page buffering improvements. Like that's a thing that can be done, but who has the time to do that?
Sorry, I don't want to hijack, but let's set aside time, because there was page buffers change, and there was the swimmer and changes to macros for timing, and then the swimmer itself. It's not clear what else was affected, but let's table it and we'll get to back to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Oh, I hope you're not dropping configure and not going to completely to CMake.
No, not yet. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't like having two build systems, but I don't feel like we're at the point where we can remove the auto tools. But it's a big pain having to maintain both of those things, right? For one of the things that we're doing now for the ECP project is we're trying to move the Voltest the Voltest suite that we have back into the library so that you can just run make check and with an arbitrary Vol connector. And it'll do all the right stuff under the hood, and that way we don't have to maintain two sets of tests. And that's gonna be kind of a problem, because like you have to do there's gonna be a whole bunch of CMake stuff that we have to set up, but then there's also we have to duplicate all of that with like the auto tools, and it doubles certain aspects of work that I'm just not excited about that. But and of course, if we're going to get rid of one, we have to get rid of the auto tools, because with the Windows does not deal with the auto tools well. So the only way you can make the auto tools work on Windows is with handstands. So we would have to go to CMake. But I do feel like the CMake stuff that we have probably needs additional attention, because of we have the stuff that we do in CMake is not always the best thing to do, right? Like when we build shared and static, we don't build a static version of every tool and every test, and we do that with CMake. So the CMake directories, when you build in them, are just completely enormous, and it wastes all this space. It's also the way that it hides its stuff is kind of unintuitive if you're not used to it. There's a lot of stuff in CMake that I'm just not excited about, but I think it's what we're eventually going to land on in the future.
Once again, I think a community, we can appeal to communities and get help. And there is a question from Dan on the HDFView installation and chat.
Oh. They always hide everything with like, whenever you're the presenter, you can't see all the stuff that's useful. Here, I'm going to stop sharing.
So it says we need to be able to install HDFView on Linux via a headless system, i.e. no X Windows and automated deployment. I've had problems with this recently and wasn't able to resolve it. It seems the install assumes an interactive system.
And there was shell script that did it in the past. Something happened to it.
Okay, yeah, I'm unfamiliar with the installation requirements for CMake.
On Linux, yeah, on Linux, it was shell script that installed, and it didn't require any X system. So it's probably became broken. Then I believe the best thing will be file bug report.
Yes, I mean, people should be hassling us on GitHub, and we're moving all of our product specific project management to GitHub so that people can see what we're doing. And so that's what we're going to be doing with HDFView. Is there should be an HDFView release project that I don't think that we have set up yet. Do we? Oh, we do. HDFView next release. So we do have a project on there. And so anyway, so yeah, create issues on there and we will add them and we will try to address what we can before release. Anything else?
You were going to talk about technical advisory board.
Oh yeah, the technical advisory board. Sorry. Yeah, that is something I do want to start up this summer. I do want to bring that back. That's I don't know the exact form and the exact timing of that, but that is something that I do so stay tuned for emails about that, because we'll ask people to sit in on that. I'm not sure how to like hold. I'd like to have those meetings be public, so I guess we could do those on Zoom and allow anybody to.
So Dana, why don't you back up and tell them what it is and like how it's.
Oh yeah, so the technical advisory board, for people who don't know, is before we had. I was never a member of this as a developer in the past at the HDF Group. I only knew of its existence, so I'll have to talk to people about exactly how this worked and how we might want to change it in the future. But it was a group of people who met at some frequency, who advised the HDF Group on what sorts of directions we might be interested in taking HDF5, and giving us feedback, and just kind of helping to steer the HDF product ship. And so I really want to bring that back. I mean, I feel like we've been very focused on ECP and the needs of the ECP community for the past couple of years, and I want to have a technical advisory board that is broader, that has people who care about cloud and data science and machine learning and things like that, and you know, and people who are representatives of our larger communities, like the earth science people and ECP people. So yeah, I feel like that'd be very helpful for us to steer, especially like the HDF5 library, into the future.
And then is asking, what is ECP, exascale computer?
Yeah, exascale computing project. Yeah, it's the DOE project to create the next generation of supercomputers that are exaflop capable.
Well, and I share some, if I have a few seconds, about TAB, because I was kind of in charge of TAB.
Oh, so how did it go, and what did you think about it?
Then first of all, those thank you, Lori. Those documents were public, and it was created. Dave Pira initiated creation of it, right?
Oh.
And we had two types. We just decided to try it, and there were two types of technical users there, or advisors. One from there were several from DOE and a few people from Union Data. So to cover earth science and a different community like NetCDF, and focus on HPC, because at that point HPC was one of the painful points, and DOE customer were looking for features like, you know, parallel compression. And there were good discussions, and your chief architect at the time, John Mazer, was part of it. There were good advices and how to deal with you know, some technical issues. But the biggest problem was that any advice they were giving, you really couldn't implement it, right? Because as you're facing the same problem, you have to have funding to do this. That's why I think consortium is a better idea, where organizations can allocate resources or can contribute to HDF Group, and really have input. Being in consortium give you some advantage of giving input in which direction HDF5 to take. And under consortium, there can be different parts, like, for example, cloud, because cloud may be at some point different from HPC, and at some point they may interact and have common goals, and resources are limited, right? So there is somehow governing group of people who decides where to put resources, but it's not only resources of HDF, it also resources of community and contributed. And this is where we kind of ended discussions where they were going. Quincy was bringing, and Quincy was part of the board, he was bringing where can things be improved, but really board was more thinking about sustainability of HDF5 and community contributions to HDF5, and everyone agreed without good design documentation it's hard to bring community together to contribute. So and then pandemic started and the rest started, so now. And I think it would be good at HUG meeting, which will be in person, have the session to discuss it and really set up the body that really will help try to articulate what kind of problem technical board is going to solve and then create it, and mechanism of it, that's secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, the HUG would be a good place to discuss that. Although I feel like I want to get this started a little sooner than when the HUG is going to meet.
Right, but people, you know, they contributed their time, and it was really, and the notes are, there should be notes on conference, you know, but and there were even some issues. I don't remember now where it is. Yeah.
I mean, there's like a JIRA board for it, looks like. I mean, I'm not sure how much of this is
And
public.
I don't recognize it. I believe something was moved around, but really, yeah, it was more for internal what to do, and
And then Dana, the other thing we said you were going to talk about was code owners. If you
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm like, I just got back from vacation. Still in
clearly.
Costa Rica brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to try to bring in other people to be code owners for what we have here in it is in, I think in GitHub. There's a code owners file, and in this we list people who have like who can kind of be considered authoritative for doing pull requests. And so this is our developers are all listed for all of the library by default. This is the HDF5 library. And then for Fortran and Java, we have some special people because those are not languages that everybody is familiar with.
And then why you removed me from Fortran? I can help with Fortran.
I have not seen you interact on GitHub in a long time. I can put you back in there.
Well, I know that you updated that file and removed some people, and I have questions, but it's aside. Yeah, if you need help, I will be more than happy. So.
Okay, yeah, I can put you back. I mean, I took John off because like I've never seen John interact on GitHub ever, right? Like so. I figured like, I mean, I only want people on this list who are actually going to participate.
Well, and I don't know what you mean. I don't interact. When I was receiving review requests from Scott, I was always reviewing them. The same with documentation, etc. But you guys removed me.
Oh, I can put you back on there. That's totally fine. But yeah, so we want to add people into this list from outside of the HDF group. We want HDF5 to be to have broader community participation. So we've identified some people that we're going to invite into this. We have 2 right now, but we're looking for more. So for anybody who wants to get more involved with the HDF5 library, with any of our products, the HDF4, HDFView, any of the other things that we have, we're looking to expand this list to include some more people, and so we'll have more of an announcement. I don't want to like say people's names if they're going to say no, right? So we'll have an announcement in the newsletter when people say yes. But yeah, but that's one of my long-term goals, is to have HDF5 have more community participation. So and as far as like Elena brought up the documentation aspect, we are actively working on improving or actually designing for the first time architectural documentation for the HDF5 library, and so that's the thing that we're actively working on right now. And so we're doing it right now in Overleaf. I don't know if that's public yet. I'll take a look. But we'll
You said Overleaf or Feed the Dogs?
well, so originally what we were going to do was we were going to there's an architecture docs branch, and we were going to put stuff in the doc directory here and do it in Markdown. But like, so there's the Arch, right? We're going to put things inside of here. But recently we decided that Markdown was a little too weak to really do. This doesn't look as nice, and it's a little hard to work with. And so we decided to do this in Overleaf. And so we're starting it with in Overleaf, and we will once we get it situated, then to the point where we've got like a pretty good outline and some diagrams and some text and stuff, then we'll start syncing it with GitHub, right? Like, there's a way of like of keeping the LaTeX and the GitHub repo in sync. And so we'll set up that interaction, and then everything will be in the repository. So I do want to keep the documentation close to the code so that they can be edited together. But yeah, but that's something that we hope to have done this year. So that's long overdue.
Well, but Overleaf cannot be, you have to pay if you want to have many users.
Yeah, so we do pay.
It means it will be hard to make contributions, but that's your choice.
Well, yeah, I don't, I was initially hesitant about doing stuff in LaTeX. I think that LaTeX has a barrier to entry that that not everybody is going to be able to overcome easily. But I think that it does look a lot nicer, right? When we generated the outline in LaTeX, it looks so much nicer, and it is easier to work in once you understand it.
Well, that can be different arguments. If you want to publish it, I agree it latex, but simplicity is good, and it's much easier. So, but that's your choice.
Well, from LaTeX, we can generate a lot of stuff, right? So if we do want to migrate it to something else, we can run it through a converter, and we can make another thing. So I'm not as, but I care about for the documentation, the thing that I care about the most about is that things have a single home, right? Like, I don't like it when documentation is spread out everywhere and it's difficult to find. And so if the architectural documentation is going to be done for right now on Overleaf, that's fine. And in the future, if you want to move it someplace, that's fine. It can have a different home. But I was told that that we can actually sync Overleaf and GitHub.
Yeah, you can. We did it for ECP project.
Yeah,
you can. It really works nicely. No, it is nice, but it is complex, and contributions are limited, and you still have to. It will not be easy to fix. So the same problems we had before.
Yeah. But we'll see. It's a reversible decision. Anything else?
Tell what else did you guys do? There are many changes.
What do you mean?
I don't know. No, it's interesting, you know. And there was the commutation that we created. Do you remember for TriLabs project for some design architecture under that project that we had with them? I hope it's not lost. It is on Confluence.
No, it's not lost.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming. Sorry that was not as organized as it could have been. I just still in my vacation brain, catching up on email.
All right, thanks, everyone. See you
right.
next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.